While people think that movies or television shows are made or based on creative, in part they are. And my experience is it's always about, in Hollywood, about the money. Disney, who owns Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, they basically make movies that are based upon their catalog of characters. The film part of one of these conglomerates adds up to about 9% of their total revenues. And so 91% comes out of all the other divisions within these companies. What does that mean? It means that when they decide to go to red light or green light a picture, it's based upon whether or not that picture can activate all the other parts of the studio.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're Disney and you're gonna say which project you're gonna pick the one that can all of a sudden create merchandise. Like Star Wars, you can have Star Wars lunch boxes and bed sheets and thermoses. Right, and then there's the theme park division, and then there's the gaming division, and then there's the home video division and the books division.
So it used to be 70% of the money came in from the US, 30% from the other global entities. Now it's flipped, so you get 30% in the US and you have your biggest client, which is global, is 70%. So now studios are making their movies to appease the wider, bigger audience. So it's just not so dialogue driven, because then they don't have to worry about the editing, the subtitles. A lot of studios, as we all know, are doing franchise movies, or they're doing reboots. So part of this is they own their IPs, right? Their intellectual property. So we have that. So that diminishes the need for a lot of script writers, right? Because we're just kind of going off of something that we already have.
So I thought, where are we headed for technology that will allow us to capture as we see? And then I realized the human retina. A month ago, there was an article about the first steps about bioengineering and the creation of an artificial human retina. So in fact, where we're headed is the construction of an image sensor that is based on the human eye. We're reaching a point in biotechnology, and so many technologies gravitate towards a bio solution, that I do see us at some point arriving where genetically engineered human retinas, not harvested, not some horrible idea of some science fiction movie, although it'd be a great science fiction movie, people harvesting their retinas for cameras. But in the end, what we will do is we will create an image sensor that will go into a camera system that's not a film strip, it's not a digital chip, and in fact, it's a genetically engineered human retina.
Well, there was this whole kind of thing. Remember, like a couple of Christmases ago, maybe it was even one Christmas ago, where they were trying to sell Oculus Rift or these VR headsets, right? And the Christmas was their big thing, but then nobody bought them. But I do believe that as the technology improves, that virtual reality could change storytelling. It could go from this sort of very linear narrative of a 3-act structure, of the 2-dimensional filmmaking process, to something that's completely different. The studios now have leverage because they can basically say to the talent agents, I don't need you. I can stick somebody else into that suit. You ask for too much money, I will fire that actor and I'll put another actor in there. How that relates to VR is, imagine an era when the studios don't have to pay actors. Imagine an era when you can create an entire world based upon characters that the consumer can inhabit, that looks photorealistic, where you don't have to worry about actor breaking their leg because they went on some vacation, or an actor saying, unless you give me more money on the sequel, I'm not going to do it.
Also, sooner versus later, you're going to see an automation of some of these scripts. In some cases, algorithms can be used. They can probably get computers to write scripts almost as good as some of the great script writers. So
you think that at some point that new person will actually be artificial intelligence, a robot or
Oh,
something.
it could be. Especially on not maybe the tentpole movies, but if somebody wants to, if it's somebody who's written 4 or 5 scripts and they have a style that's, notable,
Mhm.
you can, I'm sure that they can pick that up.
Have you seen any of those?
Not yet.
Always take a look where technology is going, because a couple of things are happening. One is that's where the money goes. That's where then the jobs are. My advice is you go toward that as opposed to trying to be part of a mature business. Because the problem with a mature business is the number of jobs shrink.
I think that between social media and crowdsourcing and a lot of independent distribution companies, that there's a lot of play out there for a lot of really creative people to just don't pay attention to the big guys anymore and find their own path to get something.
Technology ultimately is a tool. So even though I will talk about technology as being central, because it is, but if you talk to a carpenter, they're not going to talk about the hammer they use, even though it's the most modern, perfectly balanced hammer. They know how to use it well, but it's what they create with that hammer. And that's ultimately what we as storytellers, as image makers, as movie makers, as filmmakers, that's what it's about. So should I spend time learning a new camera system? Sure, it's important, but I would also suggest go out, live some life, go out, see some people, go see some struggle, watch movies, read books, go to plays, listen to music, go to the museum, paint, talk, live, because out of that, out of those stories comes what affects us as human beings.